Hey everybody, it's time for some cold weather smoking here in Minneapolis. We're doing pulled beef chuck roast today. Let's check it out. Alright y'all, Mama's using the kitchen today, so we are working outside in the garage. It's cold, 20-degree day here in Minneapolis with a real feel of low teens. Very slight but chilly breeze outside, so I'm hiding out in my garage. Let me show you what we just did. What we have here is 3 beautiful chuck roasts my wife found on sale at Aldi for $2.99 a pound. We got sizes ranging from 2 1/3 pounds, just under 3 pounds, 3.66 pounds. What I've done for prep, if you watched my last video, you know that I'm a big fan of TexasFood.com. They put out a lot of different barbecue products, rubs, sauces, glazes. They do a whole bunch of non-barbecue products as well, gift packs, Texas pecan, desserts and pies, and all kinds of good candies and treats. So if you're thinking of something creative for Christmas, check out TexasFood.com and look at their products. They have several hundred products available, including this steak dust, which I used in my last cook, and I am using again today for my base layer on all 3 of these. I prepped all 3 of these the same way. We're going to have one of these tonight for dinner, and we're going to have 2 of them tomorrow at our our church picnic, which December in Minnesota is not going to be dinner on the grounds, I can tell you that. It'll be dinner in the basement. Anyhow, we're going to turn these into pulled beef. And again, I'm using the steak dust as my base layer. As you know, if you watch my channel, when I'm using beef and even when I'm cooking poultry and other meats, vast majority of the time I go down with an SPG style base layer, and this Ranch Fixins is really good stuff, this steak dust. So that's my base layer. As always, I love me some Kosmo's dry rubs. I've tried many of their rubs, and I've only had one ever that I didn't like. I think it was the pecan one. I might correct that in a future video when I do a Kosmo's rub review, but I don't think they offer it anymore anyways, so I'm thinking they might have had the same opinion of it. Anyhow, their cow cover is my mid layer. This is a traditional beef and brisket rub, and this is where I get a lot of my color from that you see on that on the meat there. Then my final layer, which is a little bit darker, it's not that bright red. Again, that bright orange is from Kosmo's, but the John Henry's, this is my finishing rub, my 3rd layer. And the reason I like this so much is because even though it's a brisket rub, it has just a touch of sugar and brown sugar in it, not very much, especially when you consider the other rubs that I put on that dilute it. But that's a real good brisket rub, beef rub with just a hint of sweet, and I like to finish with that oftentimes. Now, I don't go on super heavy. I don't worry about getting every crack and crevice. I don't do the sides of my meat. Honestly, when it's all getting pulled together anyways, it doesn't matter. So just a real nice coat on top and bottom is how I prepped these. The smoker is fired up, so let's go take a look at that. Had my Weber Smoky Mountain fired up here for about 5 minutes or so. I just dumped the charcoal 5 minutes ago. But what I'm using today is 1 bag of Royal Oak, the red bags, the Ridge briquettes. And I pulled about 2/3 of a chimney's worth of that to get my fire started. And I'm also using 3 chunks of my own firewood. Not sure if you can see them or not, but 2 hickory and 1 cherry, about fist-sized chunks to get started with here today. And once this baby gets heated up, we'll clean the grates off, throw our meat on, and we'll be rocking and rolling. I'm not going to use any kind of monitoring device today just because it's cold and I'm lazy. I'll just come out every 30-45 minutes and check the temps and make sure we're doing good. So here we go. All right, boys and girls, we're off and running. I got the biggest one in the back there, and this is the medium one here, and this is the small one. Anyhow, I'm going to shut this down. Don't want to lose all my heat. But before I did that, we were at about 225 and just slowly climbing still. Normally, and right now, just so you know, I'm running with my vents all wide open just to get this baby up to temp. If this was summertime and I was doing this, we'd be at 450 degrees right now. But with it being about 12 degrees, 14 degrees outside with wind chill, yeah, struggling to, not struggling, but just getting up to the 250, 275 range a whole lot slower than it normally would. But that's fine. That means it'll get some good smoke here at the beginning, even while it's not cooking hot and fast like I usually like to cook. As a reminder, I'm not a water smoker, so my pan is completely empty today. If I was a water smoker, it would probably still be completely empty today just for the heat factor. Not wanting a heat sink on a day this cold, but I never use it anyways, or hardly ever. So my pan is just down there catching drippings. All right, we'll check back when there's something to update you on. All right, wisdom got the better part of my decision making, and I decided I better bust out the old Maverick. I'm not using all 4 probes today. I just have these 2 hanging here. The 2 longer, larger probes I'm not utilizing. The reason I still plugged them in is because the waterproof, weatherproof nature of this Maverick is only guaranteed if you have all 4 of your holes plugged. So if I leave these 2 holes open and water gets in there and it gets ruined, I'm out 80 bucks or 90 bucks or whatever it was. So I'm using the 2 small probes, one to monitor pit temp, which is coming back up finally because I had that lid open for so stinking long trying to get these probes installed once the cook was already going. And as you can see, the bottom left one there is for the meat, 55 degrees. And the other 2 are monitoring outside temp. And according to the Maverick, it is quite a bit warmer outside than the Weather Channel app says it is. So maybe we will be able to get good burn time and good temps today if we're in the low 30s. I'm sure as nightfall hits, we'll dip down into the 20s. But for now, very, very reasonable December day here. And I'm running with my vents 2/3 open to achieve this 275 temp. They were about half open for the last 20 minutes while I was fixing my knucklehead mistake and gathering my equipment inside and getting ready to come back out here. When I came back out after that 20-minute period of getting my stuff together, we were running about 240, and I'm sorry, we were running about 270. So we've already re-achieved that, and we're still slowly climbing now that I cracked those vents open to 2/3 instead of half. I hope to settle in around 300 and make this a hot, fast smoke today. And if I inserted that probe correctly into the meat, we're already nearly up to 60 degrees in there after only being on for, like I said, 20 minutes or so. So hopefully I got that probe dead center. Guess we'll find out later when I start using the Thermopop to do secondary temp taking. All right, we're about an hour in. These puppies are going pretty fast. We've been up to about 285 degrees in the smoker here, and 127 is not exactly accurate. I need to move that probe to a better spot here when I'm done videoing. But what I've done is I've flipped all of these over and rotated them each one spot for even cooking. They're looking beautiful, and they're actually at about 110 to 115 internal each. We'll take them to about 150, or when they look good and smoky, and then I'll pull them and wrap them in broth, and then take them the rest of the way up to 190 or 200 tender. That's the halfway update. Oh baby, we are at the 2/3 mark. We're up to 165 internal. These have awesome chocolate color. We're gonna pull them, we're gonna wrap them with beef broth in foil pans. We're gonna return them back here to the smoker till they hit 200. All right, what I've done here is I've put the big one in its pan and the 2 smaller ones in their own pan. And 165 is a little higher than I would have liked to have pulled them at and started the broth process. 150 would have been ideal, but because I want them to spend a good amount of time in the smoker still before they get up to 200, so backing off to 150 would have been ideal. However, to offset that, I have not heated up my broth. Normally you would heat up your broth and not add it cold to the meat to keep the cooking process going. But I'm just adding cold or room temperature broth, and I don't mind slowing down the cooking process. That's why I'm not freaking out about taking a video in 30-degree weather with this meat cooling down. So what I'm going to do is just wrap these in foil and pop them back on, and we'll see how long it takes to get them up to 200, maybe another hour or hour and a half. I think right now we're right just over the 2-hour mark, but those babies are looking absolutely steamy and gorgeous. Got nice color on them before we pulled them, and that's gonna be some good pulled beef, y'all. All right, good news. Actually, once I put these back on in their foil pans just a second ago, I reprobed a different roast in a different part, and I found a spot that was 151. So I think I just did a bad job probing the last time out, and I think the internal temps on these are closer to the 150 to 155 range, which means it should be a good hour and a half before they're totally done. And by then, having steamed in beef broth, they should be not only smoky and delicious from the first half of the cook, but pull apart, fall apart, tender and juicy from this second part of the cook here. So we are doing great on charcoal, better than I expected. I went to knock ashes off, and there was hardly any ash to knock off. It was still tons of solid charcoal, and even still had some of my wood chunks in there. We are already up to 325 again because of having that open and cleaning up that little bit of ash. So I'm going to crack these vents back to 1/3 each and head back inside, and see you in an hour. All right, boys and females, it's been almost 2 hours, but our temps just hit 205 internal, and it's time to pull the beef. So let's go grab it. All right, y'all. Here's the payoff pitch. Now, to have full disclosure for you, we already had supper, and that little roast is what we ate. I pulled that hour and a half ago, but the other small roast and the big roast have been resting out in the cold garage for that hour and a half, and actually are still a little bit warm. That other one pulled really nice. You can see on this one here, let me pull it up, get myself a drip pan. Beautiful dark mahogany, some chocolate coloring on there, super juicy. You can just see that juice running off of there. And the juice in the pan about doubled from what I poured in there earlier. But this chuck roast is just as tender as can be, just pulling apart with absolutely no effort, just like a pork roast would. Now this has more fat and connective tissue even than a pork roast. It doesn't fall apart quite as easily as a pork roast would, a pork butt. Sorry, I keep saying pork roast, but I mean a pork butt. When you're doing pulled pork, if you do it right, when you get to the end, it's so tender, it's just shredding like crazy. This still has a bit of connective tissue and fat that doesn't render completely out. And so it's not quite as tender as a pulled pork, but it is still very, very shreddable in the places where it's just meat, where that connective tissue isn't present. So I'll clean this up like I did on the first one earlier tonight and shred this down. And I reserved some juice that I put in the fridge off of that first roast, that by now the fat has separated, and I'll be able to throw that fat away. And once I pull all this meat into a container, a different container, a clean one, I'll pour that juice with no fat in it all back into that meat and incorporate it all together. Anyhow, you can see just how fatty and delicious this is, just like brisket. Nice smoke ring on there. So let me taste it for you, even though I already know what it tastes like. I'll tell you if this one compares to the one I had earlier tonight. And it does. It's so good. There's nothing about those 3 rubs that dominates anything. They work so well together, and it's like there is no one distinct element that jumps out at you and slaps you in the face. Honestly, they just blend together into a beautifully mellow flavor that simply makes this chuck roast taste like barbecue. This is what it tastes like. It tastes like barbecue. There's no pepper dominating or garlic dominating or sugar dominating. It's just good old fashioned smoke, good seasoning, and I like that. I like it when the seasonings don't get in the way, and it's a delicious rub combo. So give that a whirl. If you've never done chuck roast, it is delicious. Um, it is different than brisket. It doesn't eat quite like brisket. The grain of the meat is different. If you've ever had chuck roast for Sunday dinner, Sunday roast, it's the same texture you're getting out of a Sunday roast. It's just when you do it this way, you're getting the smoke and you're getting the rub. And when you put this on a Hawaiian sweet roll with some of Malcolm Reed's vinegar sauce and some crunchy French's French fried onions and a sweet pickle, buddy, that'll preach. And that's how I ate mine tonight. It was delicious. My wife made homemade Hawaiian sweet rolls, but you can get them just as easily at the grocery store if you like. But that's how we like to eat this pulled beef, and it sure was good. Wish y'all could taste it. Here's one last look before I pop that in my mouth. Anyhow, we're taking this to the church fellowship tomorrow, and we'll see how they like it. I'm guessing they are going to enjoy it. Thanks for watching another episode here at Texas 2.5. We'll see y'all next time. Have a Merry Christmas if I don't see you again before then. Take care. Hey, one last thing I thought of that I should say in closing here. I am so glad that I changed my mind on using the Maverick thermometer. That worked out great. I've never tested it in cold weather before, so not only did it help me know when my smoker temps were good and when my meat was done, but it also gave me a chance to do a real good cold weather test on that baby, and it was out there for 4 hours just hanging there in 30 degrees, and it did great. So props to the Maverick XR-50. So far so good on that thing. I told you when I did my review video on it a couple months back that occasionally, as I used it more in the future, I would keep updating you here and there on how it was working in specific applications. And so for those of you who are in cold weather places, no, it wasn't 20 below today, but it was below freezing, and it worked then. I'm sure we'll have occasion later on this winter to test it out in some colder weather, and we'll see how it does then. Anyhow, it's good for now, and still very happy with that thermometer system. So take care. See you next time.